I'm more ingratiated now with your new record for Alter Bridge, Pawns and Kings, than I was then. You know, I
Cool.
listened to it a bit, but now I've like listened to it a lot a bit.
Okay.
So I wanted to start
Cool.
there if you're okay with that. And
Yeah, absolutely.
one of the things I noticed more and more listening to it is the actual recording. We talked a little bit about that before, but who was the producer and mixer on this? Because what I loved about the actual sonic compartment of the album is it didn't sound overproduced. There's a lot of records right now that are, you know, we don't need to name names or anything like that, but they have the same triggers on the drums. They have the same shit. It's like a little bit of that, you know, to clean it up and polish it is cool, but I like the way, in particular, the drums and the snare sounds on this record. It sounds quite a bit more natural than some of the other records I'm hearing these days.
Yeah, Elvis. So Michael Basquiat, we call him Elvis because he looks like Elvis. And we've been working together off and on, really mostly on since the first record I ever did with him was in 2000. He was an engineer, and he'd engineered the Make Yourself record, the Incubus record, and he'd
great
done
record.
Yeah, he was kind of on a tear, and he was just getting started. He was very young. So that's where I first met him. He was engineering the second Mayfield 4 record. And then fast forward to about 2000, was it 2007 when we did Blackbird, and we brought him in to do the second Alter Bridge record, and he's been at the helm ever since. And he's great. I mean, not only is he great at getting sounds, but he's got a really strong arrangement sense, and he's got song chops, you know. So that's been he's been a very important asset, I feel, especially with Mark and I, because we bring in a lot of ideas, and he's able to help us filter the ideas and whittle, you know, here's the good stuff, here's what we're going to work on, and you know, understands how to put on the kid gloves and work with our fragile musician egos.
I think that's a very underrated attribute of a producer. Like I think that's
maybe the most important.
Yeah. When they can bridge that gap between two artists like yourselves writing and you know, bringing stuff to the table, and
right.
Yeah, that could get hairy sometimes. You need that outside perspective every once in a while,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know I do. I mean, I get lost I'm always amazed. I don't know about you, but when you hear about artists that produce their own records, like Prince, there was an example, and clearly he did a good job of it. But I don't think I would be up for that job, because I need somebody to say, okay, this could be better, or have you thought about approaching it this way? Yeah, it's important.
Is that so? That actually begs the question for me. I've noticed it, I guess, for myself, but like in a band, you know, there's 4 or 5 guys working on the same, you know, overarching art for an album. So there's a little bit of checks and balances just in that, in our writing and then demoing and stuff like that. As a solo artist, I wouldn't. That I agree with you would be way more difficult. Like if you're just writing from, you know, picking up the guitar for the first time, doing the riffs for the melodies, to recording it, producing everything like that, like Prince did, that would be a whole other thing. That actually brings me to your solo stuff, though. Is that not how you're doing your solo records?
Well, yeah, as far as the writing process, and that was a challenge, because especially on the second one, on Ides of March, you know, the world had shut down. So I really had to go in my studio and trust my instincts from the arrangements, you know, obviously from the songs, but also the arrangements, and, you know, putting together these realized demos that then I would hand over to my band. And yeah, that was a tremendous amount of work. It was good for me, and I think it kind of tightened my studio chops a little bit. But I do like the idea of, like with Alter Bridge, where I look at it like, if I'm submitting a demo, I look at it like a shell. So I'll come in with here's like the intro, here's a riff, here's a verse, here's the chorus, and then I like to leave like a middle section. Like, okay, Mark, what do you have that's going to complement this? Because it does 2 things. It takes it into a territory that I might not have thought of, and it also, my songwriting partner, he feels involved with the song, as opposed to you just hand in a completed song. Here's everything. Everybody play exactly what I hear. Drummer doesn't want to have to play my crappy drum programming anyways, you know? So it's like, I feel very passionate about that everybody has to take ownership of the song. Otherwise, you know, it's different. And I'm sure you guys probably the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, each song is different, right? On every album, it changes from riff to riff, even note to note. Sometimes it feels like how much each person is involved in everything. But by the end of it, I feel like in our band, by the end of it, when we're ready to put it out, everyone's put a fingertip at least in each song of some kind. So it really does feel like ours. Because I mean, you know, we've talked about it before in other interviews and stuff like. In Avenged, there's songs when we had Jimmy the Rev Sullivan with us, and he would just come with these entire opuses, like Little Piece of Heaven, just done, and we're like, and all in his head, and we're like, well, we ain't gonna fucking touch that. You gotta go. We'll play it and fucking let's put it out, you know. And there's seldom moments, but there are moments like that where something like that will happen. But then the album as a whole kind of takes shape with everyone contributing, right?
And that's a beautiful, and that's great, because then there's that chemical reaction, and it's that sum of its parts, you know, you create this thing that would not have existed had you not all put your heads into it.
Right.
I love that. You know, I think that's really important.
Yeah. Well, I think that you guys, your new record, I've heard the whole thing. Most of the people have only heard 4 of the songs, right, that are out right now, but It's also great we had to redo this. This is going to be closer to your album release now. It's coming out October 14th. So
perfect.
it works out timing-wise a little better. But I'm excited for everyone to hear the rest of the songs. I mean, the 2 that they've heard that I've already into is like Sin After Sin and the last song, why am I drawing a blank?
Silver Tongue? Or
Silver Tongue's the first one.
Right.
For the second song. I got my phone right here, man. I'm already... Pawns and Kings is
Pawns and Kings, right.
The one that's again we talked about it before because it was like the second one you guys had released for this record, Pawns and Kings. It's the last song on the record, which was like that's different to me. A lot of times you release like song 1 or 2 and song 4, and then the record comes out.
Right.
So talk to me about like how that song got chosen to be one of the ones you're going to release before the record comes out.
That was a surprise for me as well, because that was a song that wasn't even going to make the record. That was a song, like, as far as we talked about that whole process of demoing.
Right.
I had been whittling away on that one for a while and just had all these parts. And I had plenty of other demos that were more fully realized. And so I put those up on our folder. And then, but you know, sometimes you're sitting there after all the songs are up, and the producer will be like, "Hey, do you guys have any other songs you didn't submit?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I've got a bunch, but you're not gonna, you know, they're not really ready to go. Let me hear it." So I played that, and he's like, "That's going on the record." It's like, oh geez, all right. So fortunately, we got it in the context, and it became Alter Bridgeified. You know, we were able to kind of whittle down all of the parts and make it a realized vision. And so, but with that said, I was surprised it even made the cut to make the record. And then when it was one of the first tracks to be released, it just goes to show you, just like what we were talking about. It's just so important to have other people, you know, outside of your what you're doing with fresh perspective. It's that fresh perspective that totally, you know, will make or break things in a lot of ways, because you get so, you know, you're looking at every little detail, every little hammer on pull off, and you know, whatever is going on, and you're like, oh, it's, you know, you're too locked in. So it's good to have that those people you trust.
Absolutely. And then as you know, as we were talking about, when everybody gets a little part of it, you know, you come with this song and then you Alter Bridgeify it, as you said, you know, then it becomes what we get to hear now. And like I said, it's one of my favorite records on the song, even
cool.
on it. So I mean, it's just really cool. I'm glad someone told you it needed to make the record there. So
me too.
It's funny though, because on another like personal note, I was just listening to it yesterday. I was on my way to the Raiders game. I know they fucking lost. All right, fuck off. And I picked up my buddy who's a big Chargers fan. I've known him since 5th grade. He's like my best friend in the world. We go to this game every year. And I had just been listening to the record over the weekend again, and it was on the speakers in the car. And he was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a new Alter Bridge." And he's like, "Oh shit, that sounds really fucking good." And then like we continued listening to it, and I just let you know that.
That's
cool. You got a fan out of that, and he likes good music for the most part. You know, he likes my band, so it's all right.
Well, no, I appreciate that. You know, it's just like we were talking about. Sometimes you just don't know. You know, you spend so much time kind of immersed in the process, right? And you'll by the time you're done, you don't know if it's good anymore. You're just like, well, I hope people like it.
And to that point, it's been done for how long now? Like, I mean, from demoing to getting it done and then sitting on it waiting. So a lot of people at home may not understand how long that process can really be and how long you've lived with the songs before they first hear them.
Yeah. Fortunately, this record's kind of unique in that sense, in that I don't think I started really trying to put things together till about December of last year. So in a lot of ways, and you know how it is, that it can be a year or years prior to an album release where you start, building the ideas. So these songs kind of feel like they're fresh out of the oven. There's that.
That's good. So you're ready for that tour you guys announced too. You got a big tour coming up next year. So starting in January. So you guys are fresh and ready for it.
Fresh and ready. Maybe that's what we'll call the tour. It should be like a hot loaf of bread or something. We'll sell Alter Bridge loaves of bread fresh out of the oven. I don't know.
I hope that makes at least one of the admins for the tour.
I'll credit you.
Yeah. That'd be great. Just got to have the butter just like kind of melting over it somehow.
Oh yeah. Some garlic butter. It'll be delightful.
Well, I'll just have my graphic guy, Brandon. You got to put that like on the corner of this video. See, now we're having fun. Now we're back to having fun.
Right.